Hello, this is Brad Schmidt with BMC Software, and this how-to video will teach you about entity filters and how to create them in TrueSight Capacity Optimization. I'm logged into TrueSight Capacity Optimization, and I'm going to create two types of filters, the first being a static entity filter. So I'm looking at a domain containing data that I've collected from vCenter, and I have a large number of entities here, and what I'm wanting to do is to create an analysis containing only my VMware clusters. So in order to do that, I'm going to first create a static entity filter containing the clusters that I'm concerned about. So I select the filters option in my workspace, and then I click Add Entity Filter. First thing I usually do is I give it a name, so I'll call this static VMware clusters. The description is optional, so I'll just type this is a test description. Next is the type, and for a static entity filter I'll use the based on tree option. And what that means is it allows me to come down here and manually select which clusters I'm including in my entity filter. So I'll select 3 of the 5 that are showing, and let's say I wanted to expand out into other domains within TrueSight Capacity Optimization. I could do that by selecting the Show All Domains option, assuming I have access based upon what roles are granted to my user. And then from there, all I do is click Save. And I have now created and saved an entity filter containing 3 VMware clusters. From here, I can proceed and create my analysis or my model using that entity filter. The second filter I want to create is a dynamic entity filter, and this is going to be based on a search. So I'm going to add a second entity filter, and I'll call this dynamic VMware clusters. Again, I'll give it a description. This is a test description. And I'm going to select the based on search option. As you'll see, the GUI changes a bit, and I now have a search text field here. So I'm going to paste a search in here that I've built, and what this search is saying is that I want to look in my current domain, which is Acme vCenter Global, and I want to look for entity types that are VMware virtual clusters. I also have a scope section that allows me to adjust where in the workspace I'm running this search, and the fact that I included the domain here kind of overrides the scope, but this option is here if you need to reduce or expand the scope of your search. And then the final option here is the resource monitor rule filter. And what this does is it either includes or ignores entities that are in a specific status. It could be critical or warning based upon thresholds that are defined elsewhere in the product. So now I'll click Save. And you'll notice that I now have all of my clusters that are in my vCenter Global domain. And if I add additional clusters to this domain, then this search will dynamically pick those up and update the results of the entity filter accordingly. From here, I can proceed to create an analysis or a model and leverage my new entity filter, whether it be static or dynamic. That concludes today's how-to video for creating an entity filter. Thank you for choosing BMC.